Okay, so imagine this. You're told you have to move your company's entire digital operation, everything, to a brand new cloud provider. Now imagine you've only got 2 weeks to pull it off. That is the insane, high-stakes challenge we are breaking down today. It's a real-world story of complexity, incredible risk, and, honestly, brilliant execution.
So, this was the central question, right? It's the kind of challenge that would make most engineers break out in a cold sweat. Zero downtime, zero data loss, 2 weeks. How on earth do they actually pull it off?
All right, let's meet our main character in this story, a company called Kinetikos. They were at a crossroads, looking to modernize their entire infrastructure by moving from Amazon Web Services, AWS, over to Google Cloud, or GCP. But see, they weren't just moving for the sake of moving. They were really looking for a more solid, more integrated environment to power their future.
And let me tell you, their setup on AWS was not small. We're talking compute, containers, databases, storage, messaging systems, the whole shebang. The goal wasn't just to lift and shift. It was to find a direct and, hopefully better, counterpart for every single service on GCP. Yeah, this was not a simple copy-paste job. This was a massive strategic upgrade.
This was, without a doubt, a high-stakes migration. I mean, moving an entire business between cloud providers is just packed with risk, and Kinetikos was staring down 3 huge hurdles. Any one of these could have completely derailed the whole project. So first up, the raw technical complexity. The team knew from day one that the messaging system was going to be the biggest headache. It wasn't just swapping out one piece of infrastructure for another, it meant they had to actually change the application code itself. Then there was data integrity. With over 20 critical databases, the rule was simple. Zero data loss. Absolutely none. Not a single byte. And finally, their entire deployment system, how they pushed code, had to be rebuilt from the ground up for the new Google Cloud environment.
And if all that technical pressure wasn't enough, there was a financial one too. The project had this fixed service cost, $3,000, a very specific number that turned out to be a very real roadblock.
So, you've got this solid technical plan, right? You have a super capable team, but all of that ambition, all that complexity, it all came down to one single thing. They had to solve that financial problem.
And this was the key that unlocked the whole thing. Google's Partner Funds Investment, or PSF. Kinetikos was really clear about it. They said, look, if we can't get this funding to cover the cost, the project is a no-go. So securing that grant, that was the green light that made everything else happen.
Okay, so the funding is a go. The pressure is on. How do you actually build a solution that can handle all those challenges in just 2 weeks? Well, it all started with laying a perfect foundation. The very first step was to build something called a landing zone. And the analogy here is just perfect. Think about it. Before you build a house, you lay the foundation, you put in the plumbing, you run the electrical. A landing zone does the exact same thing for a cloud environment. It pre-configures all the security, the networking, the access rules, all based on best practices. It creates a safe, stable place to build everything else. It's all about getting the security right from day one.
Now, the secret weapon that really made this whole migration possible, especially on that crazy timeline, was infrastructure as code, or IAC. So instead of a person manually clicking around in a web console to set up servers and databases, the entire environment is defined in code files using a tool called Terraform. This was the key to speed, and more importantly, to consistency.
So this workflow is absolutely crucial. First, you define everything, and I mean everything in code. That makes your whole setup transparent and auditable. Second, you store all that code in GitHub, so every single change is tracked. Third, an automated pipeline just reads that code and builds the infrastructure for you, which basically eliminates human error. And the real beauty is in step 4, repeatability. You can run it again and again, which guarantee that their staging and production environments were perfect mirrors of each other. That just massively reduces risk.
All right, so the blueprint is set, the automation is ready to go, and the clock starts ticking. The execution phase began, and it was all packed into this incredibly aggressive 2-week sprint. I mean, just look at this timeline. It's wild. The project kicks off on November 28th. In the first week, they built the entire foundation, that whole landing zone. The second week, that was all about moving the actual stuff, the VMs, the databases, the containers. And by December 14th, just 16 days later, it was done, handed over, a complete transformation. And the scale of what they moved in that time is just staggering. We're talking more than 15 virtual machines, over 20 databases, and more than 50 storage buckets. This wasn't some small, simple application. This was a serious digital operation.
But you know, out of all the numbers in this entire project, this is the one that mattered the most: 0. That stands for zero data loss. Across all 20-plus databases, they hit their most critical, non-negotiable goal. Absolutely amazing.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The client's perspective says it all. Jose Castro, who's the senior engineering manager over at Kinetikos, he pointed to the professionalism and precision of the whole thing. And the result? A more scalable, future-proof platform. I mean, that's the kind of feedback that really tells the story.
So what can we all learn from this incredible, high-speed, high-stakes migration? Beyond the impressive stats, there are some really powerful lessons here for, well, anyone managing complex technical projects.
For me, 3 things really stand out. First, plan for complexity. De-risk your project by finding the biggest, scariest monsters up front. They knew that messaging migration was the hard part, so they planned for it from day one. Second, automate everything. Using infrastructure as code wasn't just a nice-to-have, it was the core principle that made their speed and reliability possible. And third, never, ever underestimate the power of a good partnership. That Google funding wasn't just a detail, it was the catalyst that made this whole project happen in the first place.
And all of this leaves us with one last question to chew on. The Kinetikos story is really a masterclass in modernization under pressure, and it kind of forces us to look at our own systems and ask a tough question. Is our infrastructure just built for today, or is it truly engineered for tomorrow?